Are we live? Hey, we're live. Whoa. We already have people here. How is this possible? How is it possible? 3 people already. Jarmila's here. Nice. Iceland. Beta from Iceland. Hey, Beta's back. This is good news. And Lolly. Classic. Hey, guys. Welcome back. We'll just wait a few minutes before we get started. For those of you watching this later, my name is Luke. I'm from America, from the United States, and this is going to be a live lesson where we're going to do a couple things. We're going to talk about a topic. I'm going to go through a topic for a few minutes, and then we're going to do a bit of a question and answer based on that. If you have any questions or you're curious about any of the expressions we talk about, we'll do that. Then we're going to go into another part. I'm going to talk about personality traits, so stick around for that. And then we'll do a Q&A, a regular Q&A. So that's how it's going to go, guys, just so you know. Just so there are no surprises. Jonah's here, Lolly's here, Beta's here, Jarmila's here. What more could you ask for? What more could you ask for? Let me just quickly, if you don't mind, share this on Facebook. If you're not in the Facebook group, I recently started a Facebook group. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. We'll see. Try to create an English learning environment. So far, I'm the only one really sharing stuff, but we're getting more people in the group, so we'll see how it goes. But you're welcome to join the Cloud English Facebook group. I think you can just search Cloud English Group, and that should be it. Jonah, you would like me to shout out? I refuse, Jonah. I refuse to give you a shout out. Jonah Hale. Jean here from Taiwan. Very good. Awesome to have you all here. Nadine is here. Oh, yes. Awesome. Okay, I'm just posting this in the Facebook group. Not on my own timeline. All right. Okay, let's do it. So, guys, we're going to get started. We're going to talk about this topic. We're going to talk about playing cards today, okay? And so get your questions ready. I'm going to go through this topic for a few minutes, and then please get your questions ready. We'll talk about that. Okay, so one of the things that people often ask me about, one of the things that people regularly get wrong is when we're, for example, playing a card game, how to say the names of the cards, especially the classic type of cards that we usually use, for example, when we play poker. And this actually is very simple. So once you know the names for these things, and maybe a few idioms, a few expressions for these cards, you're good. Easy peasy. No problem. So let's just go through how we can talk about cards, how we can describe cards, and you'll find actually it's very, very easy. Okay, so playing cards. We have 52 cards in a normal deck of playing cards. We call it a deck of cards. We have high cards and we have low cards. What are high cards? What are low cards? Well, that's pretty simple, actually. High cards are usually considered Jack with a J or higher, and the low cards are 10 or lower. Sometimes the high cards are considered 10 and higher, and sometimes the low cards are considered 9 and lower. So the high cards would be, for example, 10, Jack, Queen, King, and usually Ace in most cases, and sometimes it's just considered Jack, Queen, King, Ace. Jack, Queen, King, Ace. Now the King and the Queen are pretty easy to remember. K and Q, that's easy. King and Queen, most people know those words. But Jack is a little weird. So just remember the person's name, Jack. Jack is a person's name. J stands for Jack. The A can also be a little bit difficult. So remember, when you see A, it stands for ace. Ace. The A stands for ace, okay? A-C-E. Also pretty easy to remember because it's short. Now I want you to really remember it because we're going to be talking about an expression that we can use with ace. Often we use ace, the word ace, in a lot of different expressions. When we're playing cards, when we're not playing cards, okay? So, 52 cards in a deck, high cards, low cards, and then A is ace and J is jack. The others are just the numbers or the names. King and queen, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so far so good. So far very easy. But what about when we have all of these different pictures on the cards? What are these? These pictures. We have these 4 pictures. Well, these are called suits. Suits. S-U-I-T-S. Suits. They're called suits. So when we talk about suits, we have to know the names as well. When we're playing cards, we usually need to reference these pictures pretty often. So let's quickly go through the different suits. The one with the hearts, that's easy to remember. It's hearts. The one with the diamond, the other red one, easy to remember. It's diamonds. Notice these have an S at the end. Hearts, diamonds. Now the harder ones to remember are the black ones. But here's how I remember them. The one with 3 pieces, let's say those 3 bumps, we call that clubs. Now, how can we remember clubs? I remember clubs when I see 3 things together, and you have 3 people together, they might form a club. That's just how I remember it. That helps me remember which one it is. So 3 things together, they're in a club together. Okay, and then the other one, spade, that one might be a little harder to remember. Actually, there's a thing called a spade, but if you don't know that, then that's not very useful, right? So for that one, you just have to remember it. So hearts and diamonds, very easy. Clubs, the one with 3 bumps, and then spades, the other one. So how do we talk about all of these things together? How do we actually mention all of these things together? Well, all we need to do when we talk about a certain card is we say of. So we'll say, for example, the jack of spades, the jack of spades, or the ace of hearts. What's the one I had earlier? Let's say this one is the first one is the ace of clubs, and the second one is the ace of hearts. So that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, that's it. That's really all you need to know. Now, there are a few other useful words about cards you might want to know, like shuffle. When you mix all of the cards up, you shuffle them. That's the action. But what I want to focus on are, first, the games that we play with cards, the common games that we play. Because I often hear people say, poker. I want to play poker. But actually, what they mean is, I want to play any kind of card game. Actually, poker is a specific card game. It's a certain card game. Yeah, it's one game with rules. You can play many different games with cards. We call these playing cards. That's the general name for them. Now, sometimes people will call them poker cards because poker is such a popular game. That's okay. It's okay. But the actual name for these should be playing cards. And poker is just one of the games that we play. So we have poker. That's the one where we try to get the best hand. So keep that in mind. Hand is something we'll talk about in a second. And then we have blackjack. This is another game. These are the 2 most popular casino games. A casino is a place where you go to gamble, spend money, make money, try to win money, probably not, probably fail. Poker and blackjack, these 2 are the most common. We're not going to talk about all of the rules of poker and blackjack now because they're pretty complicated rules. Maybe we can do that in another class if you're interested, if you want to. The other one that's really popular that I like is called solitaire. That's where you try to match cards with the next card in the suit and the number. So, for example, you do a 4 of hearts, then you want to do a 5 of hearts, for example. Solitaire is really fun. Most computers have solitaire. Bridge is also pretty popular, but I have no idea how to play bridge. So don't even ask me. I have no idea. I know Bill Gates likes to play bridge, but that's about all I know. Then there's war. And war is probably one of the simplest card games you can play. All you do is each person has a deck of cards, 52 cards, and at the same time as the other person across from you, you put the card down. And whichever one is higher wins, and you take the other person's card if you have the higher card. And you just keep doing that again and again and again. And that's basically the whole game until one person wins all of the cards. It's called War. It's a pretty fun game. The one with 21, it's not called 21 points. It's called Blackjack. The one with 21, where you try to get to 21, is Blackjack. And when we talk about poker, we talk about getting the best hand. The best hand. That means you have 5 cards that are better than the others. And again, the rules are a little complicated. There are a lot of pieces there, but we say, I'm trying to get the best hand. So if anyone wants to teach me how to play bridge sometime, let me know. I have no idea. Anyway, you like playing bridge? That's great. That's great. Okay, now one more thing I want to talk about is some expressions, some common phrases, idioms that we use related to playing cards. For everything in culture, maybe you've heard me talk about before, things we say, native English speakers say, comes from culture, comes from movies, comes from games, things we do. Well, it's no different here. We have many phrases, many idioms that we use that come from card games, that come from playing cards. So let's talk about a couple, just a couple of the expressions we use. Okay, the hand I was dealt. Now you remember I said the hand is what you want to get the best. You want to have a good hand. If you have a good hand, you have the best cards, you beat the others, you win the pot of money in the middle. Okay? Now if you say the hand I was dealt, you're usually talking about being born into a really good situation, for example, or being born into a really bad situation. If someone says, I was dealt a bad hand, it often means, being dealt a bad hand often means that you are unlucky in some way. In this particular situation, maybe someone cheated you, and that's just the situation you're found in. You arrive here, and you realize you actually don't have a hotel room booked. Oh, I was dealt a bad hand. But usually it's about life in general. If someone is born with a disadvantage or born into a bad situation and they have to struggle to get up to the top, to succeed, then they might say, I was dealt a bad hand. That's the hand I was dealt. It comes from the word deal, because the person who gives out all the cards is the dealer. So they're dealing the cards, and you have no control over the cards you get. And if you get a 2 and a 5 and a jack, and they're all different suits, they're not very good cards. So I was dealt a bad hand. Well, okay, you were born into a very poor family, and there was a poor education system in your community, and you have 9 brothers and sisters, and you're the youngest, and everybody has all the nice stuff. And anyway, you have a poor situation when you're growing up. Not a great situation. Then you talk about struggling to do better, to get up, to move up the ladder. I was dealt a bad hand, but after a lot of hard work, I finally became successful. I opened my own chain of ice cream stands, whatever it is. An ace in the hole. An ace in the hole. What is an ace in the hole? An ace in the hole is when you're holding something that other people don't know about to use if you need it, sort of like a secret thing that's in your pocket. And if you absolutely need to use it, you'll use it. There's a famous example of this in a movie called The Dark Knight. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's a really good movie. Dark Knight. Yeah, just The Dark Knight. And in that movie, the Joker says, Harvey's my ace in the hole. That means if all my plans fail, I have this other thing that you don't know about yet. I just told you about it. Harvey, the person that he changed into a bad guy, right? He's my ace in the hole. So if this fails, what I'm trying to do now, I have that. That thing you don't know about. That's my ace in the hole. So it's something that you keep close to yourself, that you don't tell others about until it's time to use it, or until it becomes relevant or necessary to mention. Your ace in the hole. That one actually is really common. Finally, to call someone's bluff. Now, a lot of people know poker face. Poker face. You know the Lady Gaga song, Poker Face, right? Well, poker face is when you don't let other people know that you have great cards. So you don't smile to yourself. You know, if you have great cards, you don't go. You don't want people to know, because then they're not going to put money in. They're not going to keep playing with you. So you have to have a poker face. If you have very bad cards, if you've been dealt a bad hand, you also need a poker face. You don't want to look sad. You have to have a poker face, okay? If you have a poker face, if you don't let others know, let's say you have terrible cards, but other people think maybe you have good cards, or they don't know, and you put lots of money in and you keep betting and you keep playing, actually you should quit because you have terrible cards. Well, you're bluffing. You're bluffing. You're lying. You're not being honest. Now, that's a good strategy in a card game, and sometimes it's a good strategy in real life. Sometimes bluffing is a good idea. So we use bluffing for a lot of things. And if someone says, nope, you're lying, that's a lie, they call your bluff. I'm calling your bluff on this one. Not only when we're playing cards, can also be used in a situation in life when you're telling a lie and someone says, no, that's not true. I left on time, but the train was late. The train was delayed. I've got the train app right here. It says all the trains are on time. You're bluffing. Yeah, you're right. I left late. Sorry. Right? So it can be used in that way. So these are the ways that we talk about cards. It's actually pretty simple. So next time you're playing cards or you want to play cards, at least you should know now how to describe cards and, a couple of expressions that you can use related to playing cards. Okay. So any questions about this stuff? Any questions? I might have missed a few as I was talking. I was rambling. So I think I did. Hey, Luke. What are you drinking? Says Beta a long time ago. I'm drinking water. This is not a promotion. I'm not sponsored by Brita, but I have to say, this is the greatest water bottle ever. It's amazing because it has a filter inside. That's the filter. That straw is not just a straw, it's a filter. And so the water is going to be clean. And it's easy to carry because it's got a little handle. So when I go on walks, I can I can carry it around. And also, this rubber straw is very soft. It's very soft and comfortable. And it's made by a good brand. Brita makes a lot of good water filters. So I love this bottle so much. Oh, and because you can see the water level, it feels like a challenge to drink more. So I find, after I got this pretty recently, I drink way more water during the day. Anyway, it's a great water bottle. You use the same water. Oh, really? That's awesome. Bluffing is really great. Yeah, I agree. Bluffing, well, it can be useful. But if you are dealing with somebody who knows you well, then they're going to often be able to call your bluff. You won't be able to trick them. You won't be able to lie to them or deceive them because they know you too well. The example I gave about being on the train, being late. Yeah, sometimes I've done that. I did that with my wife once. I said, the train was delayed. And she said, no, it wasn't. She called my bluff. She knew because she knows me well. So sometimes it's hard to bluff people. There is a difference between bluff and poker face, just to be clear. Sometimes you have a poker face when you're bluffing. It means you're not showing your true emotions and you're not showing your true feelings, your true mood, whatever it may be. Yeah, because you're bluffing. Usually bluffing is seen as a positive thing. It's seen more of a strategy, whereas the lying is usually seen as a negative thing. Bluffing has a certain reason behind it. Bluffing has something, it's sort of valuable, it's useful, it can get something done, right? And lying is usually to hurt people or do something bad, even though in some ways they are kind of the same. Okay, so guys, I can take some questions now for a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, I can answer those. And then we'll get to the next topic. Yeah, I agree. Zaid, bluffing people is a skill. I'm not that great at it, unfortunately. To have a card up one's sleeve. Yeah. Lolly Lolly, do you want to explain what that one means? That's a really good one. If you've got a card up your sleeve, that comes from the old days when people used to cheat by having a sort of device here that held cards, and if you needed, I need a 10. If I have a 10, that's exactly what I need. You can call up the 10, and it comes out of your sleeve. That's a good way to cheat. Now, of course, you can't really do that now, but that used to be, in the old days, a way to cheat, to keep cards in your sleeves. But it's used in other ways, too. If you have a card up your sleeve, then it's sort of like having a card, an ace in the hole. I still have some tricks. There's something I can do here, right? I've still got a few cards up my sleeve. If we're in a bad situation and it looks like things are getting worse, it looks like things are turning around for the worse. Maybe we started a small business and it's failing. It's not doing well, right? Or something like that. Well, we still have some ideas about how to make it successful. So we might say, I still have a few cards up my sleeves. I still have a few cards up my sleeve or sleeves. Some people say sleeve. Some people say sleeves. So both of those are okay. Both of them are fine. Let me make sure that this has been shared on YouTube. Yeah, okay. We're good. We are good. All right, guys, any questions, any other questions before we start with the next topic, the next thing that we're going to talk about? Okay. So keep your questions, hold on to your questions, and then I'll get to them after. So after both of these small topics, then we're going to go to Q&A. I'll just answer some questions that you have about whatever, culture, pronunciation, grammar, any kind of question you want to ask. Which is the main meaning? Jarmila, what do you mean by main meaning? Main meaning of what? Of card up your sleeve or something else? All right. We'll talk about that one after then. All right, so the next topic we're going to talk about is personality types. Now, whether we're talking about ourselves or someone else, we need to be able to use adjectives to talk about our personalities, who we are, our characteristics. So, how do we describe our personalities? How do we describe the personality of another person? And what are some interesting adjectives we can use rather than the ones we all know? Like, I'm friendly. I'm friendly. I'm shy. We all know those. Those are kind of simple, kind of basic. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few interesting ones, a few personality adjectives that we can use which are a little bit more advanced, not so simple. We'll look at what they mean, and then we'll look at some examples, how we can actually use them. Okay, so personality types. Adjectives for personality types. Just to be clear, personality is more about your behavior and not about what you look like. So your appearance is what you look like. Your behavior, how you act around others, usually your traits. These are your personality characteristics, or this is your personality type. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some of these. And we're going to start with adventurous and courageous. And I mention these two because they're similar but different, and I want to talk about the difference. This is more interesting than saying someone is just active. I'm very active. All right, well, active, what does that mean? Does that mean you like sports? It could be so many different things, right? So let's talk about adventurous and courageous. Now, if someone says they're adventurous, it often means, generally speaking, that they like to do new things they've never tried before. That could be all kinds of new things. It could be something related to food. It could be something related to travel, going new places. It could be something related to, for example, in your workplace, your job. Maybe in your job you like to always be pushing and trying to do new things. You're very adventurous. Yeah, okay. You're open to new things. You're willing to try new things. Now, some people might confuse that with courageous, very courageous. But actually, courageous is different. Courageous means we're willing to do things, but it's more focused on not being afraid of any bad things that might happen if we do that. So adventurous means I want to try new things. Maybe I don't even think about the bad consequences that might happen, the bad things that might happen. Courageous means that I do something maybe because I want to try it or maybe because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And I know there might be some consequences and it doesn't matter to me. I'm okay with it. I'm brave. Now that could be something physical, physically courageous. I'm not afraid to go into a dangerous situation and do something that might be scary to others, right? Like climb up a rock face if we're hiking. Oh, he's very courageous. But usually we wouldn't describe that sort of physical behavior as courageous because it's just climbing up a rock face. Usually it's stuff that's moral, stuff related to our actions in society. So let's look at a couple. I think we can look at a couple of examples. Let's do that. I'm not adventurous enough to ride a motorcycle to work. Okay. So this is a simple action, riding a motorcycle. It's dangerous. I'm not adventurous enough. Some people think, oh, that's so cool. You ride a motorcycle to work? That's awesome. Okay. But if we're not adventurous enough to do that, that means maybe we're afraid of getting hurt or whatever. We could say crazy. We could add the word crazy here instead of adventurous. I'm not crazy enough to ride a motorcycle to work. Some people might say that. But that doesn't mean that riding a motorcycle is a bad thing. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with riding a motorcycle. No. It just means that I feel that there's some danger involved and I don't want to do it. If I were more adventurous, oh my God, spelled incorrectly. If I were more adventurous, I might try fried spiders. So this is about food. Try fried spiders? Yeah, you might eat something crazy. Fried spiders. I've had actually fried insects before, but never fried spiders. I don't think I could do it because I've heard they're very juicy inside and you bite them, they sort of, and so I think that's disgusting. So I'm not adventurous enough to try fried spiders. Okay, so this is about things that are kind of scary, and some people might be very active and want to try those things and not be afraid of anything bad that might happen. In this case, getting in a motorcycle accident or having a spider explode in your mouth and having the chance that it might be disgusting. Okay, but courageous is for more serious stuff. It takes a courageous person like MLK is Martin Luther King Jr. It takes a courageous person like MLK to make real change happen. Okay? Refusing to follow the status quo can be a courageous act. Status quo is what's normal. What's normal? The status quo is what everybody does. The common thing, right? The status quo. The status quo. And if you refuse to do it because you think, I think that not doing this is the right thing to do. It's the best thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. Refusing to do it is courageous because other people might make fun of me. Other people might laugh at me. I might get fired from my job, whatever it might be, right? So usually this is about more serious stuff than just being adventurous, climbing up a rock face, riding a motorcycle to work. This is about serious stuff. You're very courageous for doing this, okay? People are usually admiring you when they say that you're courageous. Okay, so that's courageous and adventurous. Now, let's talk about two others. We're going to talk about 3 sets of these. So the first, courageous, adventurous. Now we're going to talk about considerate and empathetic. Now again, these two are similar. We're doing these in pairs because they're very similar, but not the same. Not the same, okay? Considerate, empathetic. Considerate, empathetic. Now, if someone is considerate, it means that they understand how other people feel, and then they take action to make other people feel better. They do things that other people may want to make other people happier, to maybe accommodate others, to maybe make other people feel like they're comfortable. Okay? You're very considerate. Thank you for thinking of me. It's like I thought of you, and after I thought of you, now I'm going to do something. I'm going to take some action to make you feel okay, to make you feel good. All right? That is what considerate means. Now, empathetic, if someone is empathetic, that means that they just understand how other people feel. And it's not related to action. Right? It's not related to action. Empathetic just means you understand. You understand. I know how you feel. I get it. That's what we say. If we're empathetic, we say things like, I know how you feel. I get it. I completely understand. So we've got some similarities here, but they are different. They're absolutely different. Okay, so let's look at some examples of these. Let's see if we can look at some examples to understand these more deeply. It was very considerate of you to come pick me up at the airport. Okay, very considerate of you to pick me up at the airport. You thought, oh, it must be so tough to travel to a new city and have nobody there to get you to take you to your hotel. I'm going to go pick you up. Oh, that's so considerate of you. Thank you for thinking of me and taking action. I think it's good to be considerate, but not at your own expense. What does that mean? Well, that means if you're so considerate that you're always trying to make everybody comfortable, everybody should be comfortable, always trying to think of others and make others comfortable, then actually what you're doing is perhaps making yourself uncomfortable. So don't go so far. Don't be so considerate that you do it at your own expense. That means you make yourself suffer as a result. Okay. So that's considerate. You think about others and then you take some action. Now, it's hard to be empathetic toward violent criminals. So there's a violent criminal, someone who killed somebody or beat somebody or whatever. It's really hard to understand why they did that. It's really hard to understand them. It's very hard to be empathetic toward violent criminals. Maybe we should be. Maybe we should try to at least understand them as human beings. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But it's hard to do that because we feel upset when we find out that somebody has done something bad, when someone has hurt somebody else. So it's hard to understand that person. That's empathetic. We understand them. We understand how they feel. Now, the noun form of this is empathy. A little empathy goes a long way. That means if you show empathy towards others, if you are empathetic, then you might have better friendships. People will feel that you care about them. People will feel like you understand exactly how their emotions are, negative or positive. And often it's used for negative emotions. To be empathetic is not necessarily to take action, but just to understand how other people feel. Now, sympathy is a little bit different. Maybe we can talk about that later. Again, these are all a bit different. We have to understand the differences. We have to look at examples so that we can get a feeling about these. Okay, now we have one more group to look at, one more set of words. So let's do that. Let's look at another set. The last one we're going to talk about, chatty, outgoing, and extroverted. Once again, very similar in a lot of ways, but some slight differences between them. Okay, what does each of these mean? The first one, chatty. Chatty very simply just means someone who likes to talk, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't mean they only talk, but they like to have small talk or simple conversations. They like to talk to others, often about basic things, simple things, everyday conversation. Not necessarily deep discussions, okay? A very chatty person. We often describe a chatty person also as bubbly personality. I'm very chatty. I have a bubbly personality. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying, for example. Outgoing, though, is a bit different. Outgoing is someone in social situations who's always willing to go over to the other person, start a conversation, isn't shy, is not afraid to say, hey, how's it going? To be the one to say something first. This is an outgoing person. A person who is comfortable socializing, usually. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're chatty. No, it really is different. Chatty is about the conversation part, about wanting to talk, liking, enjoying, speaking, talking, conversations. Probably someone who's outgoing also enjoys conversations. But that's not the focus. The focus is they're the ones who begin or initiate some sort of conversation with other people, especially strangers. At a party, if you're outgoing, you'll probably make lots of friends. This is very similar to extroverted. Now, extroverted is more like the psychological term. When we talk about personality types, in psychology, we use introvert and extrovert. Extrovert is the noun. Extroverted is the adjective. Introvert, extrovert. They're opposites. An extrovert is someone who, the best definition I've seen, someone who gets their energy from being around other people, someone who loves to be around other people, who loves to be around their friends. So this is a little different because an extrovert isn't necessarily outgoing. You could have an extrovert who loves going out with friends and having fun, but isn't necessarily the person who talks to strangers first, which is usually what we mean when we say outgoing, someone who is willing to talk to someone they don't know, be the first person to talk. Extroverted just means you love spending time with others. You feel energized when you spend time with others. Whereas an introvert enjoys spending time by themselves. And when they want to recharge their batteries, when they want to get their energy back, they might spend time by themselves. They might go for a walk. I'm curious to hear from you guys if you're introverted or extroverted. I'm definitely introverted. I like spending time with people. Doesn't mean I don't like it. But when I want to recharge my batteries, when I need to replenish my energy reserves, I go for a walk by myself. I spend time by myself. Naturally, that's my natural thing. But I like talking with people and having conversations too. So let's look at a few examples here. So, I'm not very chatty, but that doesn't mean I don't like conversations. So I like having maybe deeper conversations, but I don't feel like I always need to chat, to talk with people. Sometimes I just like to be quiet. For example, outgoing people tend to be good at working in teams. If you're outgoing, maybe you work well with other people at work in your team. Okay. Maybe introverts can too. Fine. But outgoing people are often very good at socializing or working together with people. If you're extroverted, you probably spend more free time with friends. Introverts, that's the noun form, may like staying home. Of course, that's not always true. Extroverts like staying home too. That's just a general description of introverts and extroverts. Okay, so this is the basic idea. These are some slightly more advanced words we can use to talk about personality types. Of course, there are many more, many more, and we could talk about them forever. And there are lots of interesting ones as well. Maybe we can talk about those in the future. But anyway, those are some of the common ones to use, and I'm curious if those fit you. So yeah, leave a comment if you feel that one of these fits you, or if you're the opposite of one of these. Okay, any questions about this stuff? Lolly is definitely extrovert. I can tell, which is a good thing. I think it's very interesting to be, Rex is just used a no word. Rex, I got bad news for you. In about 10 seconds, you're going to be banned from the channel forever because you're using language that is super duper not appropriate for this chat, calling people names. I believe the word is troll. Oh, let me turn this down. Hold on a second. Let's see. Hide. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Guys, be nice, okay? Be nice. Rex, that was not nice. Rex is gone. Yeah, troll. So a troll is someone, actually it's a very interesting thing. Maybe we can do another one about this. A troll is somebody who they get their energy there's introvert, there's extrovert, and then there's troll. Someone who's a troll is someone who gets their energy from trying to get people excited, making someone angry, right? If someone is angry, and the troll made them angry, they feel happy that they did that. They're a troll. And you might say to someone, "Are you trolling me? Are you trolling me?" So if you look under a lot of YouTube videos, you'll see comments that are just trying to get everybody excited and angry and arguing and fighting. This person is often just doing this because they think it's fun. And it is an art form. It is an art form, but it can go too far when you start, calling people bad names and stuff. That's not so good. But that's called trolling. I do think it's funny. I honestly think trolling is funny. Polite trolling, good trolling, when people are just getting really upset, sometimes it's great. However, when you start using, language to call people names, yeah, that's not so good. Chatty. Oh, okay. I'm going to go back through some of the questions. So when I was talking, guys, I wasn't answering the questions. You might be wondering why. Hey, why does Luke sometimes, when he's speaking about a topic, not look at the comments and respond? Well, what I probably will do is usually cut out that part and make it as also a clip to put on the channel so that people can just watch that part easily if they want to, something I've prepared before. And so often when I'm talking about a topic, then I'm not checking the comments, but then between, like now, when we're doing the Q&A, I am. So Dinesh, sympathetic and empathetic. Now, what's the difference? So sympathetic is usually, they're similar, but sympathy is not just understanding how a person feels. We often use show sympathy, which often involves some sort of action or a statement, saying something. So we say sympathy when often we say, "My condolences," or I feel so bad for you. That's so bad. It's usually about something bad which has happened to someone, right? To show sympathy to someone is to relate to someone when they feel sad or hurt or upset or they've lost something or someone. And empathy is much more broad. It's just about understanding people. That's kind of the difference between them. Okay. Nadine says, "Rex, you don't have the right to judge people." I agree. Chatty equals talkative. Yes, I would say that chatty and talkative, lolly lolly, are exactly the same. They're exactly the same. Wow, I'm just seeing that everyone is actually putting Rex in his place. Rex, show some respect. Good stuff. Thanks, guys. What about Gabby Gabby, Gabby? Gabby, let's see. Usually not Gabby. Gab to gab is to talk. I enjoy gabbing, you could say that. Or I like to gab. That means I like to just talk and talk. So someone who likes to gab is chatty. But I haven't heard Gabby as an adjective. Not that I know of. I don't think so. Hey, Luke, why you talk slow? You need to talk with us faster. Ah, yes. Okay, well, that's a good question, Ma23. Why don't I talk faster? So, because there might be a range of people watching this, and I'm trying to make sure that the widest range of people can understand what I'm saying. So, it's not that I'm speaking slowly. You may think that I'm speaking slowly. Actually, it's not the speed. It's that I'm not using a lot of native expressions. I've talked about this many times before, but the reason that you usually don't understand a native English speaker is not necessarily that they're speaking quickly. In fact, a lot of native English speakers speak a lot more slowly than I do. In fact, I think right now I'm speaking at a fairly normal speed. And if I were talking to any native speaker, I would be talking at the same speed as I am right now. Maybe a little tiny bit faster. Maybe. But it depends on the situation. The thing that makes the difference is the references that I'm making to culture. Some of the phrases I mentioned earlier, for example, I was dealt a bad hand or an ace in the hole. referencing things like that, then suddenly when I say those expressions, those native English expressions, you go, I don't know that. So it's using things that you don't know that makes it hard to understand. Now, if I started doing that a lot, then it might be confusing for everybody. So the way that I'm speaking here is to reduce all of those things, to not say as many. And so when you talk to a native English speaker who's not an English teacher, they're likely to... Rex just keeps coming back. When you talk to someone who's not a native English speaker, rather a teacher, not a native English speaking teacher, they don't know what not to say. So they just say what they normally say. And you find it hard to understand because they're making lots of references to cultural things, movies. They're using lots of idioms and phrases. That's the reason. Looks like Rex is back. Although I'm not seeing that in this chat on my phone. That's weird. I see another Rex. Yeah. Yeah, so think about this. How many people are here? 15, 20 people? Okay, so if you maybe are a high-level English learner, but someone else watching this is a low-level person, that person needs to be able to understand a little bit as well in order to actually be able to learn anything, right? So it's kind of something that I think most English teachers have to learn how to do over time. And I think when I started teaching English about 8 years ago, I didn't do that as much. And then over time, I slowly realized what things people don't know. So that thing is not saying things rather than saying things. Dinesh is here, Luke. I see that, Dinesh. Hello. Okay, so now that we've gone through our two topics, if you guys have any questions about cultural stuff, if you have any questions about grammar, if you have any questions about pronunciation, if you have any questions about almost anything, you're welcome to ask. We can talk about it. Although if it's differences between things, sometimes that's not particularly interesting. I mean, we kind of just talked about the differences between words, but pronunciation stuff, whatever it may be. If you guys have questions about that stuff, or if you have questions about any of the topics we talked about, like playing cards, games related to playing cards, or personality types that we talked about as well. Okay. Yeah, guys, let me know if you see that dude come back with another screen name. Just because the comment is not good. Scolby? How do you say your name? It's very hard to say. Scolby? I don't speak French. It's a long name. Cool name, but a long one. Cool and long. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention is very quickly, if you guys haven't already, you probably have seen some links. If you haven't checked that out, underneath of all of my videos, you'll see some links. Those are links to courses. So I have right now 10 courses. You can do it either on Skillshare or Udemy. Either one, it doesn't matter. But if you want to check out those courses, you can. One of them is free, and then there are 9 others which are not free. But if you look at Scolby, cool name, Scolby. But if you look at the code underneath the link, you will see YouTube 2019, I believe is what it is right now. It may change over time. That is a discount link. So you can put that code, once you open the link, you can put that code in and you can get a discount to the courses. Big discount. It's a pretty big one. So I have difficulties pronouncing things like months and close. That's a good one. How to pronounce? Okay, these are two good questions. 2 pronunciation questions. I love pronunciation questions. So these look similar. You might think it's the same issue, But actually, it's not the same issue for either of those two. They're different. One is actually hard to say, and one is not. And also, before I answer the close one, I want to mention one thing. The thing that people actually say is often not the thing that they should say. So you're supposed to pronounce it, and if you look at the phonemes, it's clothes. There's a th. If you watch my tongue there, can I zoom in? Let me try this. I'm just curious if this works. Clothes, clothes. Okay. But the fact is, I didn't know I could zoom like this. But the fact is, 99.9% of native English speakers won't say that. Clothes. They say it so quickly that it might as well just be close. C-L-O-S-E. So instead, I would recommend for this one that you just say C-L-O-S-E. Clothes. I'm going to buy some clothes. We should go buy some clothes. Oh, I need some winter clothes. Clothes. And I cannot hear the difference between clothes and clothes if I say it quickly. So actually just say C-L-O-S-E. Now you might be thinking, hold on a second. What if someone confuses the two? Well, in a sentence, they're never going to have the same position because they're grammatically different. You would never put C-L-O-T-H-E-S in the same place as you would put C-L-O-S-E. You wouldn't say, for example, please close the door. It doesn't make any sense. You'd say close the door. Okay, so that's C-L-O-S-E. I got it. Now what about I need to buy some winter C-L-O-S-E? That has no meaning. So it's got to be C-L-O-T-H-E-S. Okay, so that's easy. So just say close, C-L-O-S-E, and you'll be fine. Now the other one, unfortunately, is not so easy. And that one is M-O-N-T-H-S. This one, unfortunately, you do need to do the stupid thing with your mouth. And so you've got to really practice this one. You've got to get your tongue ready. So let me do my zoom in thing again. I just realized I can do this. Very exciting. Okay, here we go. So this one is month. Now notice that my tongue is between my teeth there. Month. Now, I have to add the S. So month is easy. Well, not very easy. Has to go n and then th, month. But then you slide your tongue back into the S position. So it goes so it starts here, and then it goes slowly back into the S. Then all you do once you've practiced that is speed it up a little bit. So, mun. Th, s. Those are the three tongue positions. Mun. Th, s. That's it. Now we speed it up a little bit. Months. 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 But the whole time I'm doing the same thing. It's just a matter of practice. So you might be thinking, oh God, so fast. Impossible. Well, it's not impossible if you can get basically the right tongue positions down. And then th, and then s. Then all you have to do is practice it 1,000 times and you'll get it right. It's just a matter of practice. This is muscle memory. The thing about pronunciation, learning pronunciation, that's different from learning some other things is that it's more about practice than it is about knowledge. That's why I'm so against writing down phonetic symbols, because phonetic symbols tell you how to say a sound. They tell you how to say it, but they don't show you how to say it. You don't actually know how to say it when you see the symbol. For example, ah. Okay, I see that it says ah, but exactly how do I say it? Is it ah? Is it ah? Is it What is it? What is exactly the mouth position? So it's much better if you focus on mouth positions, the positions of your mouth, your tongue where your cheeks are, where your lips are, all of that stuff. And you learn it that way by repeating it again and again and again and again and again in front of the mirror rather than learning phonemes, because it's more like tennis or ping pong or swimming where it's practice. And then once your mouth gets the feel for it, that's called muscle memory. Once your mouth gets the feeling for it, muscle memory, then you're fine. And it'll be easy. But you just have to make sure you're doing it correctly. So practice that, lolly lolly, 1 billion times until you've got it. Months. So close is easy, months is not. Guys, if you don't mind, hit the like button. I would appreciate that. That really helps. That lets other people know that the stream is happening and we can get more people in. Okay, I missed a question. How about 3,000th? Okay, yeah. Well, you chose a tough one. There are two that are actually tough. One is EIGTH and one is EIGTHS, and one is, let's say, 3,000th. Let's just say 1,000th. All right. So, first one, EIGTH. 8. So it goes, stops, 8. Don't say 8. Just 8 and stop it. 8. And then move your tongue forward to the TH position. 8. 8. 8th. So not 8th. That's strange. That's bad. That's wrong. It's not good. 8th. 8th. And practice it until you can get it right. Now the same thing where we move the tongue back for the S position. 8ths. 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 So it's the ths. So if you don't know how to do that, ths, 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 ths. If you haven't practiced that and you don't know how to do that, you're going to mess up a lot of English pronunciation because that's really important. 8ths, 8ths, months. That sound is pretty common, so you have to get used to doing that. Now, your question is 3,000th. So this one ends with the n, but then there's a D. Should I say the D very clearly? No. If we say 3,000th. Ooh, I forgot the D in my text there. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. 1,000. And then you just push on it a little bit, but you don't let it go. Right? You don't actually push it out. You don't say 1,000th. If you let it go, doth, that's going to be weird. Right? So for 1,000, let me spell it correctly now, if you don't mind. Or 1,000. I'm going to write 1,000th because that's even harder. Thousandths. This is very, very hard. First is the N, then the D. But for the D, we don't release it out. We hold it with the tongue, then the TH sound, then the TH sound. Then if we have an S, we'll add the S. So let me zoom in for this one. Here we go. 3, that's easy. Thousandths. 3,000ths or 3,000ths. Okay? Now you'll hear people say it very quickly as thousandths. Thousandths. It's actually not correct to say thousandths. But if they're speaking very quickly, a lot of native English speakers will do it. Thousandths. Thousandths, just because they're being lazy. But you should learn the correct way first before you do the lazy way. So that's thousandths. And you got to practice that. D, th, s. But you hold the D, so don't let it go. Thousandths. Okay, practice that again and again. Tough one. Very tough. Very tough. Okay. Going back, difference between contented or content or content. Oh, I see. You mean the two different meanings of content and content. That's a good question. So the stress is different. Let's do this. Content. Noun. Content. Adjective. Let's do it like that, okay? So, content is the stuff inside of a thing. So if there's a container, then we have something inside of it. That is the contents, often with an S, of that, whatever it is. If we're talking about something like an article or a video, then we usually say the content. If you're enjoying it, you say, oh, this is really good content. This is really good content. I'm enjoying this content. Noun, I'm enjoying this content. So if it's a physical thing, the contents of the bottle. The contents of the bottle. And if it's a non-physical thing, something you read, something you watch, something you listen to. For example, a job is a content creator, someone who makes videos like I do, or courses like I do. Check out my courses. Or writes articles. A content creator. Great content. I love your content. Okay, so the difference there for pronunciation is that we're stressing syllable 1. Ah, ah. Ah, ah. Okay. Then with the adjective, we're stressing syllable 2. Content. Content. I'm content to sit here and read all day. Hey, you're on vacation. Don't you want to go out and explore and do something? Aren't you adventurous? I'm not very adventurous. I'm adventurous. Okay, you go. I'm content, adjective, content to sit here and read a book all day. So there, we're stressing the second syllable. Okay, syllable is the beat in the word. Now, there are some general rules, and this one doesn't follow the rule. The general rule is this. When you have a two-syllable word that goes 2 syllables. When you have a two-syllable word that goes the first syllable will be stressed if it's a noun or an adjective, usually. The second syllable will be stressed if it's a verb. So, perfect example, noun, P-R-O-D-U-C-E. Produce, verb, P-R-O-D-U-C-E. Produce, second syllable is stressed. O-B-J-E-C-T, object. Object, noun. Object, verb, object. Object, P-R-E-S-E-N-T. Noun, present. Present, verb, present. Present, second syllable is stressed. Noun or adjective stress the first syllable, verb stress the second. Now, here's an exception. C-O-N-T-E-N-T, adjective, content. I'm content to sit here and read all day. Okay? Doesn't that break the rule you just said? Yes, it does. This is what's called an exception. There are exceptions to every rule. Language is a messy thing. It's a big mess. There are rules that we can use 80% of the time, but then you'll realize after you learn a rule, hey, wait a second, what about this? I thought that usually two-syllable adjectives were stressed in the first syllable. Well, yeah, they are, but not this one. Sometimes there are things that break the rules, so it's not strict. All rules in language are broken. Almost all rules. There are one or two that aren't, but almost all rules in language are broken, especially English, which is a very messy language. I am content to be extroverted, ED. Yeah, I'm content to be an extrovert or extroverted. Yeah, there you go. Good example. I like it. I like it. Okay. Wilson Riho? Is it Riho or... Yeah, I think it's Riho. Oh, what's the difference between sort of and kind of and type? Well, this is an interesting question because let me think of how to answer this clearly. This is a great question. Here's why it's interesting. Because sort of and kind of are used in two different ways, but type, in this case, is not. Let me explain what I mean. So, if I say, are you hungry? The answer might be, sort of, Kind of. Right? I'm kind of hurt by what you said. It sort of hurt me. It sort of hurt me when you said that. It shows me that you're not really thinking about me. Right? Show me a little empathy. I'm sort of hurt by it. Now, that doesn't mean very hurt. It means a little hurt. So sort of and kind of are used to talk about a degree of how much something is. And if it's kind of in the middle, well, I used kind of to define it. That's rule number 1 in teaching. Don't use the word to define it or the phrase to define it. If it's in the middle-ish, yeah, so we use sort of and kind of. Okay? Sort of hungry. Kind of hungry. You kind of hurt me. Not too much. But we also use sort of and kind of when we say, what sort of da da da? What kind of da 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 do you want? And in that case, we use type too. So that one does fit with type. Okay. What sort of movie do you want to see? What sort of food do you want to eat for lunch? What kind of food do you want to eat for lunch? Now, would we say, what type of food do you want to eat for lunch? Probably not. So they have the same basic meaning, right? Sort of, kind of, type. But type is often used as a more, I don't want to say scientific, but for more technical stuff, right? What type of disease is it? Well, it's a contagious disease, or it's a respiratory disease. That means it's a disease that is related to your breathing. What type of disease is it? So it's often more technical stuff or more things that are not only scientific, but hard categories. And we use type for that. Often more technical. And kind of and type of is more for our daily lives. Kind of food we want to eat, the kind of movies we want to see. Now, you can say, what type of movies do you like? It's okay. It's okay. But it's less common than saying, what kind of movies do you like? There is another word that we use for kind, type, sort, and that is genre. But that is only for movies, music, TV, and literature. Genre. G-E-N-R-E. Genre. Genre. What genre do you like? Documentaries. What genre of music do you like? Electronic. What's your favorite genre of literature? Nonfiction. Historical nonfiction. Whatever it may be. So when we're talking about things related to art, music, that sort of stuff, we often use genre, which means type, kind, and sort. Okay. So hopefully that's clear. Good question. I like that question. Is there any difference between American English and Canadian English? They sound the same to me. Sure, there are differences. Yeah, there are differences. There are definitely differences. Well, one thing is that in Canada, there are different influences on the language because Canada has an influence from France and an influence from England that is I would say, a little bit stronger than America because there's a closer connection. Now, America, of course, you could say, well, America was a colony of England before. That's true. The English language comes from England. Americans use English. That's true. However, I would say that Canadian English, while it sounds a lot like American English in accent, in tone, the sound of it is the same. There are some words that are used by Canadians often that Americans will not use. Now, there is also what we call Canadian pronunciation, and it's a certain way of speaking that I have trouble trying to imitate. But little sounds here and there that are a bit different than what we think of as American English. But there are also a lot of dialogues in the United States, or rather, dialects in the United States, different ways of speaking in the United States. So there's a lot of diversity, but so someone in Canada probably won't talk like someone from the south of the United States. Someone who talks like this from the south of the United States might have what we call a southern drawl. And if they have a southern drawl, they might stretch out a lot of their words in this way when they speak, and it sounds different. They might use some different words. People from the south actually talk like this. And you won't hear people in Canada talking like that. People in Canada, when they speak, it sounds more like how I speak, the pronunciation. So I would say the pronunciation is generally the same, maybe more influences from England than the United States has, and maybe some influences from Canada, or from France as well, not Canada, from France as well, because actually one part of Canada, Quebec, is French speaking, and that spreads a little bit, I think. But yeah, that's about as much as I know of Canadian English. Generally speaking, they're pretty much the same. Yeah. And there are a lot of interesting dialects. If you haven't seen my video about dialects in the United States, you can check that out. I have a video of different American dialects, including one that is from Wisconsin, which is my closest guess at what the sort of Canadian accent sounds like. Is there any difference between American English and Canadian English? They sound the same to me. Okay, that's that question. Yeah. About the other words, I'm not so sure. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit like on the video. I would appreciate that. Hit the like button. That lets other people know that there's a live class going on. So do that. And also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Why not subscribe? And if you haven't checked out my courses, make sure to check out my courses in the links in the description. And there's a coupon code in the links. So if you use that coupon code, you could get a huge discount on the courses. Okay, did I miss any questions? Ooh, thanks. Talking a lot, so I need some water. From my Brita water bottle. I'm not sponsored by Brita, but I should be. Oh, Doran asks, once, and once. Oh, that's a good one. ONES, WANTS. Oh, I forgot I can do this. Boink. I can put these up. Doi. Okay. I like Doran's question. Oh, and I can do my zoom. I won't zoom in now. This one's easy. ONES. For ONES, the only thing you need to know is that you don't need to stop your voice throughout the whole word. Ones. Notice the little Z sound at the end. Z. Ones. Okay? So that's the thing that makes that one different. The voice never stops, including at the end. The last sound is a Z sound. Oh, Hot Ones. It's my favorite show on YouTube. Hot Ones. Ones. Have you guys seen Hot Ones? It's a good show. They eat hot wings. It's hilarious. Especially the last episode was great. And then WANTS and ONCE. These two are actually more similar. They're very similar. So, what's the difference? First one. Once. WANTS. Once. And once. So the W sound is the same, and the end is the same. Tss, tss. Now notice that this one doesn't have our voice at the end. We're not saying Z, we're just saying S, S, with a T sound in front of it. Once. And once. The only difference is when I'm saying WANTS, I'm going to stretch my mouth a little wider. Wa. Once. And for the other one, ONCE, I'll go like this. And my mouth is more relaxed. Wa. So one is wa, and one is Once. That's the difference. They're very, very similar. Almost the same. The other one, ones. That's a good question, though. I like that question. Good one. Good question, Doran. Jean asks, let me stretch this question out a little bit. Okay. Jean asks, how about pronouncing coral reefs? Do you pronounce often with the T sound? Because I was taught to pronounce this word without the T sound, but I often hear native speakers pronounce it with T. All right, so it's two questions. The first one is coral, 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 instead of coral, 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 reefs, reefs, coral reefs, coral reefs. Then the other one, I have heard people say often, often. I know quite a few people who say often instead of often, but I say often. You were taught to say it without the T, and that's totally fine. However, if you choose to say it with the T and you say often, that's okay too. That's fine. I prefer to say often. How often do you go? I think it's just easier to say. It's not as much work with your mouth, right? If we say, I often do this, I often do that. Ugh, tiring, exhausting. I'd much rather say often. Very often. Very often. My brother says often. He regularly says often instead of often. And I always think, why? Why, brother? Why? I don't understand. Are we really brothers? Okay, good questions. Good questions. Have I missed anything? I don't think so. Let me know if I've missed anything, guys. Sort of and kind of. Thanks, Luke, but when I listen to example news from the BBC, they speak faster and don't use slang or familiar references, cultural words. Also saw some video channel when they use phrasal verbs and they have synonyms. I think synonyms is what you mean there. Phrasal verbs, I think that's one of the main things that prevents people from understanding sentences, because phrasal verbs have 3 or 4 meanings. For example, the phrasal verb get over, right? Get over something means to overcome a difficulty. Get over it. There's a difficult thing that's happening, right? Maybe you got fired. Oh, you'll get over it. You'll get over it. But also it means to physically go over something. Okay? To physically go over something. It can be used for different things in different ways. And a lot of phrasal verbs are like that. Some phrasal verbs, come across, has so many different meanings. Come across, one is to physically go from one place to another place, to go across something, to move across something. But another meaning of come across is how other people feel you are, how you seem to others. You come across kind of serious all the time. That's totally different, right? Totally different. And then another meaning of come across is that you find something unexpectedly. I came across a really interesting book in the library, and so I picked it up and took it home. So that is to find something unexpectedly. Totally different meaning. And so when you're watching a movie and someone uses come across or get over, you think, which one is it? And so you have to deeply understand phrasal verbs in order to really get them, to be able to see them in movies. I would recommend, so the courses I mentioned, 4 of them are about idioms and expressions. So I would recommend taking those courses because a lot of them cover phrasal verbs, common expressions you see in movies and TV shows that are very high frequency, that you'll regularly see. And we don't just talk about the meaning, we deeply go into each one, talk about how it's used, how people usually use it, which one's most common, which meaning is regular, which meaning is irregular, and then examples. So, and each course is about 7 hours long. So if you don't mind looking at my dumb head for 7 hours, then I would recommend those 4 courses on American English slang, idioms, expressions, and phrases. And there are also a lot of phrasal verbs in there. To say a task is finished, can I say the task is complete or the task is completed? Oh, that's a good one. So you would say the task is complete. The task is complete. We're using it as an adjective there. What kind of task is it? It's a complete task. So we would say the task is complete pretty much all the time. Now, someone might say once in a while, oh, the task is completed, but most of the time it should be complete to use it as an adjective. But if you change it a little bit, then you have to use the verb form again. So for example, if someone says has been, suddenly we have to use the past participle form. The past participle form is the same as the past form, so we say the task has been completed. The task has been completed. So if it's is, then we're using it like an adjective, so we say is complete. If we're using it as a past or a past perfect tense, has been, then we'll say completed. And if we say in the simple past, we say I completed the task. I completed it yesterday. Probably finished would be better, but that's how we would use it. So complete is to answer your question, and completed would be when we're using it in a past tense situation. Either the present perfect tense about the past, or the simple past. Has been completed, or was completed, or I completed it, if that makes sense. Okay. Are phrasal verbs different in the US, Canada, or British English? I'm sure that there are some that are different, but in, I would say, 90% of cases, 98% of cases, they're the same. So there are always going to be differences between British English, American English, Canadian English, Australian English. There are always going to be some differences. There are differences in pronunciation. There are differences in cultural references. There are differences in idioms and phrases. Now, I would say Canadian English and American English are very, very similar, except for maybe a few word usages. And Canadians say a more often, maybe, than Americans, and maybe a few other small things. But when an American speaks, a British person will understand pretty much everything, unless it's something that's very fresh in the culture that hasn't somehow made it over to the UK yet. Very new, maybe very underground. But then if it's very new and very underground, some internet meme or something, most other Americans won't know it. Like an old person who doesn't use the internet won't know it either, so it'll be the same. In fact, it's probably more likely that a young British person will know what a young American knows if it's a new thing, rather than someone who's over the age of 50, right? My grandma or something who's 80, she won't know it because it's new. A lot of new words, like words we talked about in one of the previous classes, things like binge watch. My grandma might not know that word, but someone from the UK who's maybe around my age will know it because it's a fairly new word. It's actually in the dictionary. Now, the other way around, sometimes that's not true. If there are some really local things in British culture, British TV shows, a lot of Americans don't know that stuff. They don't use a lot of those words. So that's a little bit tricky. I watch a lot of British TV shows, and I watch a lot of British movies, and I like British humor. So I think I understand most of what I hear, but then I come across something, and it surprises me. Phrasal verbs, though, I think mostly are the same everywhere. Australian English often confuses me because they have so many shortened versions for things, abbreviations. It's very confusing. I have an Australian friend, and some of the time when he's speaking, I'm really focusing, really concentrating to try to understand what he's talking about. Please use an example. Please make an example. Make an example of catastrophe. Make an example of catastrophe. I'm going to add my own comment. This question is from Doran, but I just rephrased it slightly. Okay, so a catastrophe is when something terrible happens. A disaster is a similar word. A terrible, bad thing in general. And it messes up everything around it. Okay? Now, one meaning of, or one way to use catastrophe is for something physically terrible that happens. If, for example, there's a bomb somewhere and poof, it blows up and you say, oh, what a horrible catastrophe, a horrible disaster. 3 people were killed. It's awful, awful. It's a catastrophe. So we could say maybe there's a terrorist attack on the news. The terrorist attack is such a terrible catastrophe. Such a catastrophe. Okay. But these things are subjective. All words are subjective. Well, most words, especially words like catastrophe, are subjective. What does it mean to have a catastrophe, really? People like to exaggerate a little bit when they're speaking, right? And so if I say, yesterday I did a live class and I think I didn't explain the word catastrophe very well, and I really messed it up. It wasn't clear. It was a catastrophe. It was a catastrophe for me, in my opinion. That's my evaluation of myself. So if you want to use the word catastrophe for something that happens in your life, something bad that happens, you messed up, you got fired, you can say it's a catastrophe, and that's okay. That's okay. You can say getting fired was a major catastrophe. It took me three months to find a new job. It was a terrible catastrophe. For you, yes. What about something like a hair catastrophe? This morning I had a hair catastrophe. Someone's getting ready for work and they just can't make their hair do what they want their hair to do. So they say, I had a hair catastrophe. Isn't that a little strong? Are we using the same word for terrorist attacks that we use for hair not obeying your hairbrush? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You can say it. You can say that. And it's okay. If you say I had a hair catastrophe, I know exactly what you mean. You're exaggerating a little bit. You're making it a little stronger than it actually is. So that is totally, totally fine. And it's a personal thing. It's the same as disaster. A lot of those words, we exaggerate when we use those words. And so sometimes we use them for everyday things, like a bad hair day. Sometimes we use them for terrible things that actually fit the definition in the dictionary. Synonyms, words that have the same meaning, would be disaster, maybe mayhem would be kind of the same. That would be a big mess. Chaos is also a big mess. It's not exactly a synonym, but chaos is a noun, which has a meaning of everything is in disorder. It's total chaos. It's total chaos. So yeah, there are a lot of similar words that we can use instead of a catastrophe. Would we say my hair this morning was chaos? Probably not. But we might say something like, every morning before the kids go to school in the kitchen, it's total chaos. So if you have a family with 3 or 4 kids and they're all running around getting ready for school, someone's getting ready for work, they're looking for the car keys and looking for school books and eating at the same time and having orange juice, everyone's running around, you would say it is total chaos. But the other side of this is when we make things less strong, and actually they are stronger. So if we say that it's chaos, and chaos is a very strong word, and we're talking about just having breakfast, well, that's fine, but it might be a bit of an exaggeration, stretching it a bit farther than it may typically be used, which is totally fine. We can go the other way and make things less strong. And I think this is maybe more common in the UK than it is in America, but we also do it in America. And that is to underplay something, to make something less strong than it actually is. So we use a bit here, and we use kind of here. and we use sort of here. But actually what we really mean is that it's much more severe than what we're saying. So if you got fired and you say, I'm a bit disappointed about being fired, right? Or it's a bit of a mess. I got fired. I don't know how to pay my bills. I got rent coming up this month. I'm a bit stressed. It's a bit of a mess, a financial mess. Actually, it's a huge mess. It's a disaster. That's another word, a calamity. I'll write that for you. It's a calamity. It's a disaster. But I don't want to make it sound that strong. Sometimes we don't want to state things that strongly. So we weaken them by using a bit, but we still mean it's strong. It's a bit of a mess, a bit of a disaster. It's a bit of an inconvenience. It's kind of an inconvenience. It's sort of inconvenient. Okay. Actually, what we mean is it is inconvenient. It is a mess. But adding a bit softens it. Adding kind of softens it. Adding sort of softens it. So actually, they're very useful for making things a little bit less. And I think that's a little more common in the UK than it is in America, but Americans still do it. Before we go on and talk about more questions, guys, make sure hit the like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed so you can see my weekly video. I do a video every, depending on where you live, Saturday morning or Friday night. And every Sunday, we'll be doing these live classes. We'll do a topic and we'll do a Q&A. And we may do some other Q&As during the week. But make sure you subscribe so that you can see when they're happening. And also, make sure to put your questions in comments under videos, and I usually use those as topics for the live class, the beginning of the live class when I talk about the topic. Okay. I would like to learn offensive words or bad words. Please make a video. Well, I have, Doran. So I have a video about the F word. I have a video about the word ass. I have a video about the word shit. And I recently, last week, did a video about WTF and AF, which is what the fuck and as fuck, these two. So I actually have quite a few videos about bad words. Just go to my video library, go to my videos page. On the videos page, you'll see lots and lots of videos. Some of the old ones are pretty good. So yeah, maybe I'll put that in the link in the comments. I don't have the links right now to those, but yeah, quite a few bad words. Have done videos about those. Unless you have a specific question, Doran, about something else, another word that you want to know about. How to use off right after the verb, like go off, sleep off, and take off. Well, those are all different phrasal verbs that we can use. And I can give you the meanings of these, but I wouldn't frame the question as you've framed it because I think it gives the wrong impression. I think the impression that it gives is that there's something special about the word off. Somehow that if we understand these three, then we'll be able to learn something useful about the word off in general. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's right. Because I can't find a common thing in off about these three. If we understand these three, we won't say, aha, now I understand off. Probably not. Probably not. But we can talk about the meaning of these three. These three happen to be phrasal verbs. What is a phrasal verb exactly? Well, a phrasal verb is when you have a verb and then a preposition, or a verb and then an adverb. Verb plus a preposition, and a verb plus an adverb. So, how do we use off right after verbs like go, sleep, and take? Go off, often and most common, is used to talk about becoming angry suddenly. So I'll give you a story, a short story. When I was in high school, I cheated once. I was actually a very good student, pretty good student. I studied hard, always studied hard. But one time, I actually cheated. I cheated one time. And it was a very small thing. There was this word I could not remember. Absolutely couldn't remember it. And it drove me crazy. So what I did was, and I was not normally a cheater in high school. I've studied hard, good student, number 2 in my class. But I wrote the word I wanted to remember before the exam started in eraser because there's some oil on the desk. So I wrote it in eraser on the desk, just that word. And then the exam started. And I didn't wipe it off. I just left it there. And I did well on the test. And then the next day, the teacher said, "Hey, Luke, you forgot to wipe off the word you wrote on the desk when you cheated on the exam yesterday." And I realized, oh my God, I deserve this. And then he started shouting at me for probably 15 minutes, just screaming at me about how, you're a good student. Why do you feel like you need to cheat on exams? And he was right. I felt really bad. I felt really guilty. I shouldn't have done that. But to describe that thing, I could say, after it happened, oh my God, he really went off on me. And other kids in the class will say, he went off on Luke for about 10 minutes. Went off on Luke for about 10 or 15 minutes, screaming at him about how disappointed he was. Okay, so often went off is used like that. It means to go crazy, to shout at someone, and it's used in the past and in the present. So that's my story. And now that you know I cheated on an exam. Am I alone? Has anyone else ever cheated on an exam? I never did it after that, ever again. Never again. And that was the only time, I promise. Okay, to sleep something off. Usually sleep off is related to drinking. If you get really drunk, then if you wake up in the morning, you'll have a hangover, right? You have a hangover, and you don't want that. Hangover is a bad headache. You feel terrible. You drank too much. You got super drunk. You got wasted. You got hammered. You got shit-faced. You got shit-faced. You got stupid drunk. Whatever it is. Okay. And so then, instead of waking up and having a hangover, you just sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep, and you wake up at 2 p.m. and you feel better. So you say, I just had to sleep it off. Sleep it off. Now, it's not only for drinking, but it's often used for getting really drunk. And when you sleep through a hangover so that it doesn't seem so bad the next day. Oops, drunk, not drink. Stupid drunk. So that's usually how it's used. It could be used for other things that make you really tired or not feel good, and then you actually go to sleep so that when you wake up, it's better. So you sleep it off. I sleep it off. I can sleep it off. Shrug it off would be somebody criticizes you, and you don't let it bother you. It goes doink. And someone says you're an idiot, stupid, and you don't want to listen to them. So you just say, well, I don't care what you say. Your opinion doesn't matter to me. You shrug it off. That means you don't let those negative comments bother you. Just shrug it off. A very similar one would be this song by, what's her name? Taylor Swift, called Shake It Off. Shake It Off, I think, is similar in meaning. Not as common as Shrug It Off, though. Similar. Okay, and then the last one is take off. So, wow, take off has so many different meanings that I don't even know where to start. So take off, number one, take off. To go quickly. So if someone grabbed someone's bag and ran away. They took off. Very quickly run, suddenly. He grabbed my purse and then he just took off. I don't have a purse, but that was my impression of a lady getting her purse stolen. He grabbed my purse and took off. So, ma'am, I will get your purse back. And I took off after the criminal. Okay? So, to take off means to run suddenly. But take off is also for airplanes. When the airplane goes up into the sky, we say the airplane is taking off. The plane will take off in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The plane will take off in 3 minutes. Okay. If we change it to one word and we say take off, take off, take off is delayed, or takeoff was delayed, or before takeoff, then that's one single word as a noun. So take off is a phrasal verb, but after takeoff, they started serving the meals, or after takeoff was meal service. That is a noun. So often we have phrasal verbs like work out, take off, that can be two words as a phrasal verb, or as one word, a noun. We use them to describe the thing that happened after it happened. After takeoff, for example, or before takeoff. You can say it, I guess, before it happened too. So, but that's one word. The noun form is one word. The other meaning of take off is to say something like this. I am taking a few days off. That means you're supposed to go to work and you decided not to go to work, so you called in and said, I need to take a few days off. I can't work this week. So you're taking days off means you're not working when you normally should. This is not what we use for weekends. You wouldn't say, I'm taking off on Saturday and Sunday. If you don't usually work on Saturday and Sunday, then you don't use take off. Don't use take off if you don't usually work on Saturday and Sunday, because you're usually off on Saturday and Sunday, right? So instead, let's say I took Monday off. I took Monday off, meaning I usually have to work on Monday, but I'm not working on Monday because I don't want to, or because I don't feel well, or because I have an appointment at the dentist or something like that. I took Monday off for my dentist appointment. So we should normally, but now we're not, okay? Sometimes take off means to just leave. To just leave. For example, we might say something like, are you ready to take off? It's getting late. Let's take off. It's getting late. Let's take off. Or, hey, awesome party. Thank you so much for everything. I'm going to take off. I'm going to take off. It just means I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave. Maybe I'm at a party. It's 11:30. I have to get up early for work. I'm going to leave. So instead of saying I'm going to leave, I'm going to take off. Thanks for everything. Thanks for the great party. Okay. Another meaning of take off, like an airplane. When a business or something becomes suddenly successful, maybe it's a platform, maybe it's a business, we say, it goes up suddenly. Say something like this. The application, WeChat, suddenly took off in 2012. So it came out for a long time, sort of like this, and then poof, it got really popular. It took off. Businesses take off. That means they go like this and then this, right? Luke's YouTube channel took off in October of 2019. Guys, I only have 26,000 subscribers. It makes me sad. My channel hasn't taken off yet, I would say. Maybe it never will. Who knows? But, it's an average sized channel. If you want to support the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and subscribe. And check out my courses. The last meaning of take off is probably the simplest. And that would be you're wearing something and you take it off. Take off a sweater. Take off a hoodie. This is called a hoodie. This is called a hoodie. Take off a hat. Take off your glasses. Okay? We were talking about poker before. If you play strip poker, instead of paying money, betting money, you have to take off your clothes until finally someone's naked. It's called strip poker. That's different. That's a different game. Take off clothes. So those are the different meanings of take off, go off, and sleep off. Hopefully that answers your question, Doran. So where's the difference between wipe the desk and wipe the desk off? Milton says wipe the desk and wipe the desk off. I think... I'm just trying to think if there are any other exceptions here. I think that those are pretty much the same. Yeah, those are the same. Wipe something and then wipe it off. Maybe if we say to wipe something, it's just to do part of it. Maybe someone says, oh, wipe the desk. Maybe there's just a spot on the desk and I'll just wipe it. Wipe it off maybe is to do the whole thing like that. The whole thing is cleaned with a rag. So that might be one difference. People might use it that way, but often it's used in the same way. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good question. Shrug it off, libel? No, to shrug something off, libel is a legal term. Libel is when someone writes something that is deliberately untruthful about you with the intention of hurting you. It's a lie. They know it's a lie. So that's called libel, being libelous. But that's a legal term. And you can go to jail for that. If you publish, for example, something about somebody that is a deliberate lie with the intention of hurting them, then you've done something libelous. You've committed libel, and you could actually go to jail for it. Doesn't count in YouTube comments, so say whatever you want. You don't have to be honest. That's fine. So no, I wouldn't say that. But let's say for criticism. Let's say criticism. Someone is critical of you. Someone is critical, or someone makes fun of you. Someone mocks you. If you have to deal with criticism, then you say either, oh, I accept your criticism, or I got it, thank you, I heard you, I understand. Or if someone says, you're an idiot, that's not libel, that's their opinion. The word idiot is an opinion word. You can tell anybody that you want you can call anybody you want an idiot. Doesn't matter who it is. There's no way to disprove that. It's not a lie because that's your opinion. So that's just a cruel remark if you call someone an idiot. Now, if you call me an idiot, I might start crying, in which case I let it get to me, maybe because I have very thin skin. I'm very sensitive. Thin skin. I'm thin-skinned means I let any sort of comments or critiques bother me and they upset me. But if I'm thick-skinned, if I have thick skin, then I'm able to just shrug off negative comments, hurtful comments. Shrug it off. Just shrug it off. Or if you face some sort of defeat or some sort of setback in some way, you can say, just shrug it off and keep moving. Shrug it off and keep moving. Hope your channel will take off soon. Oh, thank you so much. Could you film a lesson about email acronyms? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I'll put that in my list. I've got a long list of video topics. We can definitely do a video about email acronyms. Hold on, let me write this in my list before I forget. Email acronyms. Okay, good one. Thanks for the suggestion. If you guys have any suggestions for videos, just put it here. Put it in the comments. I seriously read every comment. I might not comment on every comment, but I do read every comment. So if you have suggestions for videos, if you have more questions or whatever it is, let me know. I'll try to make a video about it. I'll try to cover it in a live lesson. We'll try to talk about it. I want to make sure all of your questions get answered, and I want to try to make sure you have some kind of English environment. That's important. If you want to take part in our English environment, I recently started a Facebook group. It's still pretty small, but I'll be sharing memes and videos and other things in the group. So you're welcome to join the group. I think you can just go to Cloud English Group. I think that's what it's called, Cloud English Group on Facebook. If you want to join, I will approve you, probably. And we'll try to see if we can set up a sort of discussion or something like that. It might be an interesting way to have an English learning environment. I'd like it to become that, but we'll see. I can't force it to happen. We'll see. I'll be sharing stuff, and we might soon, if we get enough members, if we get up to 100, we'll start doing a daily topic so that people can actually share their opinions, practice their writing skills, and so on. Also, if you haven't already, I know I've said this 1,000 times, hit like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Why do people use up right after the verb, like chop it up? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I do not know why they do that. Make it up, chop it up, fix it up. There are lots of them. Fix it up, fix it up, make it up, chop it up, screw it up. But I don't know why. I don't know the reason. I don't know the reason behind it. I honestly don't. Sorry, I can't answer that question to your satisfaction. Milton. Cool name. Not a very common name. Definitely a cool one. Okay. Guys, we are going to stop for today. This has been a pretty long live class. We might do another Q&A later in the week if you guys want to. Maybe outside on a walk. I often go on walks, so I might do one of those later in the week. But most importantly, next Sunday we will be doing another one of these where we do a topic. We talk about a topic, and then we do a Q&A. We might have a couple topics, so if you have suggestions on topics, let me know. I can add it to the old list. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And also make sure you are around for my video on, it's either Friday night or Saturday. I post it Friday night here this time. I'm in Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you have the bell notification on so you can see when the weekly video comes out. And I'll post a couple of clips from this live stream too. So look forward to hearing from you guys on that. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the comments. Much appreciated, guys. I'm going to go eat. I'm starving. I'm almost dead. I could die at any moment if I don't eat. I could literally be killed by my own body. All right, guys.